friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. Got one for you today that I think you'll really enjoy, especially if you have an old case around that's in bad shape. I have repaired pieces of old cases for years. I don't think I've ever, what you would call, restored a case. And in this case, I still use the term a little bit loosely. I would just call this a very extensive repair of a 102-year-old case for a Gibson L1 guitar. And the only thing I regret in this video is that I didn't show you all in one part how bad this case is. You'll see it in miscellaneous pieces as I'm repairing all the different parts, but this case was in very bad shape. The video on the guitar restoration will be coming later, and it was also in pretty bad shape. So both of them I think you're going to be real happy with, but right now we're just going to take a look at fixing this case. Thanks for taking a look. The customer asked me on this L1 if there was anything I could do to fix up the case a little bit. It's in pretty bad shape. When you're in this bad a shape, I don't think I'm going to hurt it any if I just try to re-glue all this cloth in place. And that, it's still going to have holes in it and stuff, but at least it won't be loose hanging around. See, it's just loose everywhere right now, flopping around. So I'm going to just make it look a little better. It's not going to be perfect by any stretch. The way I'm going to do this is with just Elmer's glue, just regular old Elmer's glue. And I'm going to paint the areas where I want to stick the fabric back down, and I'm just going to try to and if I get it on the fabric, I'm not too worried about it. This stuff is water soluble, so you could wash it off if you really had to. This case is in very bad shape, so I can't afford to spend a lot of time on it because it's a budget job, but I want to try to make it as nice as I can make it within that budget. And see, it really does actually do a nice job. That sure looks better to me than that loose fabric flopping. Anything like that you can do to improve your case, I think is a good deal. This Elmer's glue is actually a pretty good wood glue. And so a lot of this loose plywood will get glued back in with that also. And I'm actually poking it back in the plywood cracks, so it's going to be fine. You'd be surprised how good Elmer's glue works for wood. It works very well, actually. Before wood glues came out, many people used that. I remember back in the old days, Elmer's glue is an excellent wood glue. We got a whole bunch of loose stuff here, and I'll turn it up where maybe you can see it a little bit. It's very loose along in here, and again we got plywood fibers that are loose. I'm just going to paint it all down in there, let it run down in those fibers. When you got a case that's this bad, my question is, what's it going to hurt? It's already a case that looks like it should be thrown away. So by trying to salvage it the best you can, I don't see a problem. Yeah, it's not sticking very good right here for some reason. Wow, this just does not want to stay right here. That's a shame because it was working so well everywhere else. It's not an easy thing to clamp, so you just kind of have to hope it adheres. It's just not sticking on this. I don't know why. So I'm going to wash it off a little bit, and I'm going to try my Type Bond. Again, it's water soluble, so I'm going to just try this. I think this might have a little more tack to it, and where this this canvas doesn't want to. I mean, it's a little bit stretched here, so it's not grabbing. And so I'm going to try the tight bond, paint it all over this fabric, and it's also getting down in that plywood, those layers of plywood that are loose. I think you can see how I've got it down in there, and these layers of plywood that are loose down in here. Yeah, the tight bond already seems to be gripping a little bit better, so I think the Elmer's glue is pretty good for most of it, wherever it doesn't. But right here, this stuff here is stretched, and I need something that's a little more tacky. Yeah, that seems to be tacking up a lot faster. I think if I hold this here for a little while, I think we'll be good. I think you're going to be amazed how nice this case is going to look after we're done compared to the way it looks now. Let me just give you a better look at it, how bad it is. I mean, like, this is all pulling up here. You can see the layers of the plywood that are coming apart. It's pretty bad. It's really, really pretty bad. But I think when we're done here, you're going to be surprised how decent it's going to look. Yeah, the tight bond's a better choice. There's no question. It's definitely got it stuck down there. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and use tight bond from here on out. That seems like it's working great. And you can wipe it off with water just as well. It's still fighting me, even with the tight bond. I'm going to admit, I thought it was stuck better, but it's still coming loose. But it's better. I can feel it's definitely better, but I'm going to have to really just spend some time here and just holding this till this dries. I've got a dry paper towel here that I'm wiping it with to try to speed it up a little bit. Going to have to redo that part again with more glue, it looks like, because it's just not sticking. Another option would have been super glue, but that's really a mess. So super glue would stick it, but it's just a mess to deal with. This is much easier to clean up, and you don't have to worry about it running everywhere. I think it's just that fabric has spent a lot of years straightening out here, and it doesn't want to go back into that shape. I finally got tired of trying to keep this here, and it was still wet and everything, so I got this little space heater and letting it blow on there, and that's drying out that glue and warming it up, and I keep rubbing it, and it's now, I believe, there. I think I'm done. It took a while, but that really did seem to help. So in case you run into a problem where that fabric is stretched like that and doesn't want to go back, or I guess I'd say shrunk like that and doesn't want to go back, then gluing it and rubbing it like this with under heat seems to have helped a lot. It does look like it's glued now. There's one little spot, just a tiny little spot now that I'm working on, where before it was this whole area. That was good. Now that's fixed. Alright, let's put her down there and see how well she sticks. Hopefully pretty well. Looking pretty good so far. I have a trick on making all these scars go away that I'll show you later that I think is going to work just fine. I've done it before and it's worked. Although I got to admit, I don't know that I've done it on one that's quite this fabric-y. I think I've done it more on leather type cases, but we'll try it on this. I think it'll work on this too. That's looking pretty good. We'll just let that set now. It seems like that's adhering pretty well. We'll go on to the next thing that I can find on the outside here. Looks like this whole bottom is a mess. Wow, it's really a mess. We may have to clamp this because this is the wood coming loose more than anything. we'll see what we can do about getting in there and clamping all that shut. I'm going to try to get glue way back in these cracks on this and then clamp it up. I'm using the force of the glue bottle kind of like a syringe to insert the glue back in there pretty far. And then I'll just take the brush and paint it back in as much as I can, in and behind, poking it down in those cracks. And we're going to paint it on this fabric and try to get the fabric glued back in place too, as much as we can. This fabric is a mess on this. It's really a wreck. Most of the fabric is there. It's not all there, but most of it's there, and it's not looking too bad. I'm going to have to clamp this one up because it's in a world of hurt back here. Alright, we're going to use these kinds of clamps on this. I think this would be perfect for this. You can only clamp it so tight because you'll push the whole case together. Pretty sure the customer is going to be very happy with this because this is literally, this case was dumpster bound. I mean, it was that bad. And I think we can salvage it where it'll last another 30 or 40 years anyway.
An old battered case, weathered and worn, with the hinges all rusted and the fabric all torn, but still cradled inside was one old precious thing. It was Grandpa's old fiddle, oh how sweetly it rings. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love.
These clamps are known as Cleco clamps. One of my wonderful customers, one of my wonderful, I will even say satisfied customers, sent me these clamps. They're used in the airline business, or airplane building and repair business, I guess you'd say, for clamping lots of, like sheet metal together and edges and different things. But they work perfect for this too. I got enough clamps to go this far, and quite frankly, I think that's far enough right now. So we're just going to let this part here set up, and then we'll come back down here and get this part that's really messed up, and we'll get that glued back in here too. But it's, I think this case is actually going to surprise everybody how nice it's going to turn out here compared to how bad it was. It literally was, in my opinion, ready for the dumpster.
His heart for my grandma and me.
Yeah, the clamps left a little depression on the fabric, but I think that's going to rub out and go away in time. So I'm not too worried about that compared to all the other problems that this poor thing has. Okay, we're going to glue it the rest of the way.
Though just a boy at the time, I remember a day when Grandpa...
There's a lot of cardboard missing out of this, and if I were doing a high budget job, I would replace that cardboard, but because this is a very low budget job, it's just going to go back together the best way I can get it back together so I can get on to the next project, because this is taking way more time than I'm getting paid for. But I'm trying to still do the best I can with what I'm working with.
He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love. And I can still hear it playing up in heaven above.
It really came together a lot closer than I thought it was going to. So not too bad. Really not bad at all, considering how horrible it was. You know, you always want it better, but it's pretty darn good considering where it was. Well, let that set up and then we'll move on to the fixing this inside down in here. While the lid is setting up, I'm looking at these padding here on this side, and it's loose virtually all the way up to here, and it looks like there's a seam here. I'm going to try to just take this piece out right now. We're dealing with the padding in addition to the fabric in the cardboard in this case. I would just like to see if I can't maybe repair that whole section before I glue it back in there. I'm thinking I can fix it better here on the table first and then put it back in there. At least that's what I'm hoping. I've cut 3 strips of paper here. I probably only need 2, if that. This is slightly heavier than normal typing paper or whatever. It's almost like a cardstock. Not quite as heavy as cardstock. I wish it was just a little heavier. But anyway, it's pretty heavy. What I'm planning on doing, or I'm going to try anyway, is see if I can't reinforce this piece of cardboard that's broken. I'm thinking of putting a piece on the back side and a piece on the inside. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm hoping this glue is still good. It's a spray glue. And it may not be any good, though, to be perfectly honest with you, because it is pretty old. So I'm going to give it a shot. Hopefully we'll get lucky. Spraying out pretty fast. I wish it would come out a little easier. It's coming out in a spray instead of a fan. And we'll just see how that goes here. I'm hoping I can insert it in here and get it to stick. And of course it's sticking to me better than it's sticking to this paper. Now what I'm going to try to do, and again it would be so much better if this thing would just spray good, but it's not spraying very well at all. It's spraying in a straight line rather than any kind of a spray. But I'm going to see if I can't spray this inside and then stick this foamy or this padding stuff back to it and stretch it out and stick it back to it as I go. I think it might work, but I don't know for sure. Trying to spread it out is the biggest problem because it doesn't want to spread out. It's been scrunched up for so long. I'm not too worried about the fabric yet. I'm just trying to get the padding itself spread out. And it looks like it went pretty good, actually. That looks like that worked. I'm as surprised as you are, trust me. Okay, well that worked pretty good. So now the padding is glued back to this rough frame. Now we got to get the fabric wrapped around this frame and then glue it back in the guitar. This fabric is really wrinkled bad because it's been sitting in that position for years. You know, no telling's how many years, or even decades. So straightening it back out is, you know, not how it wants to be at this point. It's working. Slow process. I'm pretty sure I'm going to win in the end, but it ain't going to be a fast victory. Okay, this seems to want to work from the narrow end up here rather than the big bowed end down there. It seems to want to wrap easier from this, starting from this direction. So, you know, whatever's easiest at this point. And I'm not going to go very far at a time because this stuff here is just a mess. I'm just going to put enough glue on here to really soak up to this fabric. And I'm going to wrap it around there. And I'm going to take a clothespin and pin it. And just go a little further. Put a couple of more clothespins on this. And then we'll just go like that all the way because that's That's the best I can do under these conditions.
Upon that rugged cross of Calvary was there my blessed Savior cried, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do. O sinner friend, for thee he died." His hands are gentle.
Well, that really seemed to work well. Now, will it work well on this other side and get it wrapped around there, and then we can put it back in? That's the question.
Is breaking as he waits for you.
It's a good thing I'm taking these clothespins off early here, because they were starting to soak through the fabric and stick to the fabric. So got them off just in time, I think. They've been on there about 30 minutes or so. Now we've got to do some major stretching and get this wrapped around this edge of the cardboard and glued back.
Someday he's coming back to claim his own. We'll fly to heaven's golden shore. A crown of life he gives on that glad day. With him we'll live forevermore. His hands are gently knocking on your door. Outside he's pleading to come in. His heart is breaking as he waits for you to wash you free from every sin.
I think we whipped it. I think we whipped it. Now let's see. Wow, it looks pretty darn good. Look at that. Woohoo! I'm happy with that. Couldn't beat that with a stick. I'm sure somebody out there in video land could do a better job than I've done here, and that's no doubt. But I doubt anybody would want to do it for the money I'm getting. We've got this area here that's really loose, and I'm just going to put the glue on that just like I did on everything else, and I think that'll work just fine. Now we've got to figure out how to glue this in, and I don't know if I should just use the same kind of glue. I guess probably so. It's been working pretty well. Got this turned in an awkward angle, but it's so that you can see it. It's awkward to me to work on it this way, but I think we can make it work. And I'm trying to get it up underneath this lip of this fabric here, where it's turned over. Well, I think that's as good as we can do. So let's stick it in here and see how we're going to try to clamp it in place, because I don't have a good guess on that either. I think I'm going to put this on here like that to clamp these lower bouts to keep them down for the most part. These clamps are really tight. I'm a little bit concerned about them. I know it'll work good, but I'm afraid they'll scratch up the outside of the case, so I got some leather here put on there. That'll hold it. Again, we'll put some leather on the outside, this block on the inside. I'd like to have something up here because this isn't clamping real well right at the moment. And I'll just put this on there. Wow, that's really nice. It clamped up good. It looks good. Got this whole section glued in here now. I've got the glue coverage real good. And we're going to put it back in place. Put a few clamps on it. And I think then we've got the vast majority of this thing whipped. That's looking good. I think that's good enough. We got a few more places around the rim here to fix, but I'm not going to film all that. I'm just going to fix it, and then we'll call this a done deal. I'm going to try to put a fabric stop on this. I've actually used, this is another webbing out of a ratchet strap. It's a very lightweight one, and you know, I'm colorblind, but to me it looks like it goes with this, even though this may be purple. I don't know what color it is. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm just trying to fix it, and you're only going to see a little piece of it. I'm going to just saturate it with glue, put it in both ends, and then clamp it, and make it as tight as I can get it in there so that when this opens up, it won't flop. Odds are it's not going to hold, but it's worth a try. So I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm just going to pour the glue down in there, really. And I'm going to saturate both sides of this that's going down in there. Hopefully work it down in there as far as I can. I'm going to work it down in there with this tool. That's pretty good, actually. I'm actually happy with that, and it just might fool me, and it just might hold. The reason I wanted to use this webbing is because it's kind of texturous, and I felt the glue could stick to it real good. And it's very strong. You're not going to break it, so what I'm going to do first is, now that I've got that one down in there good, and I know it's saturated with glue, I'm going to clamp it really good now. What I did for a clamp, I can't get a clamp in here because of the hinge, so I just forced this. I put a block of wood in there to force the fabric over, and I put this long stick across, and then I'm just driving extra wedges behind the stick till I get it just really tight. Maybe I will get one more in there. I'm going to now glue, get this piece in there and get it up there as tight as I can, and we'll just let it set overnight. We'll do the same thing up here to this other end too, so it's a process. It just, you don't do it all in 5 seconds, that's for sure. And probably have to do the same thing. Probably just have to put a stick across there. So we'll find something to put across there. Just thought I'd show you that the little straps that I put in here seem to be holding. They're not great, but they seem to be holding. And I think as long as a person, respects the fact that they're just, glued in straps and don't just throw it open, it'll probably last a long time. As a matter of fact, it might last forever. I've got some black shoe polish, and I'm going to rub it in here, see? And I think that's going to really make it pop, make this thing look nice. Rub off on stuff and make a mess, I know that. But on the other hand, I think this is going to make the case look really good. You can see already that's improving the looks of it. Now where there's bare wood here, there's not much I can do about that, but this fabric, turning it black again, is kind of nice. Yeah, you can see this side compared to the edge there, and see how bad the edge looks and how nice the top looks. It's really looking a lot better. So once we get all the edges covered and everything, it's going to look a lot better. Sure, it's not going to be like a new case, but we wouldn't even want it to look like a brand new case. Yeah, you'd be surprised the difference even in the feel. The case just feels nice and slick now. It's just amazing the difference. It's literally amazing. It's, you know, it looks like a very old case, but now it looks like a very old case that's been pretty well cared for. We still got, you know, some pretty bad places here, like this area where there's no fabric, but overall it's pretty darn nice considering what we're dealing with. This wiping this down like this gets a lot of that loose black off of there, where I'm afraid if you rub this up against a pair of white pants, it's going to leave a little black mark, but I'll let the customer know so that they know what they're dealing with. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Well, I just thought I'd show you a little more comprehensive look at the overall case. It's, it's got its issues. I went ahead and put some black dye on that spot there to darken it up a little bit, but it's still, not perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And but it looks really nice. It looks, I don't want to brag on it, but dadgum, I think we saved it from the dumpsters, what I think. Here's what the inside looks like. You can see it's up in pretty good shape now. Compared to where we were, I think we have $1 million case. I hope you enjoyed this look at how to fix an old case like that. And if you got something out of it, well, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't get anything out of it, give me a thumbs up. Won't hurt you. Thanks for watching.